iPhone 13, 4 years old now. And if you're looking at it from a design angle, yeah, nothing's changed. It already looked like the iPhone 12 when it dropped. Just a slightly smaller notch and cameras moved diagonally, like the iPhone 14, 15. It felt more like a design shrug than a redesign. Even now, with newer iPhones still carrying nearly the same shape, it's clear Apple isn't trying to surprise anyone with how these phones look anymore. Not in ways that make you stop and really notice. But the thing is, that starts to matter less over time. You stop needing your phone to feel new every time you pick it up. The moment-to-moment experience is what sticks. If the software still feels good, still feels alive, you stop thinking about what's dated. And you also stop caring about the hardware reputation once the software feels right. If the experience doesn't get in your way, the hardware fades into the background. That's really the heart of it. Most of us don't need the latest tech if what we already have keeps doing its job. The trick is whether it's still being supported. Security updates, major iOS drops, that's what draws the line between a phone that's aging and one that's simply older. And right now, with iOS 26 rolling out in beta, the iPhone 13 still feels very much in that second category. Even next to today's phones, it holds up in the hand. The back looks almost identical to the iPhone 15, and the front, yes, it still has the notch, but so does the iPhone 16e, which just launched recently. There's still a kind of visual parity in Apple's lineup, so unless you are standing next to someone with an Android that's all screen and zero bezel, you're not losing the aesthetic war. Apple's own design stagnation is working in your favor here. In the hand, it still feels great. That boxy, solid shape. It's not large, so it fits comfortably in one hand. There's weight to it, but not in a bad way. It just feels well built, like most Apple devices. The aluminum frame, glass back, still IP68 rated, still clean and tight in its build. And mine's pink, which does a surprisingly good job of hiding fingerprints. So even with a glossy back, it doesn't feel messy. Then there's the camera. I use a Pixel 6 as my daily. And while that's the one I'd choose every time, coming back to the iPhone 13, I noticed something. It's aged better in terms of camera. Photos feel more detailed, more refined, especially when I zoom in or just snap something quickly. The cinematic mode still adds a nice depth blur, and portrait mode holds up. Images are clean, well exposed, with that slightly processed but unmistakably iPhone look. For everyday shots and quick video clips, it's more than enough. Both rear sensors, standard and ultra-wide, are 12 megapixels, and both can shoot up to 4K at 60 fps. Same with the front camera. Even cinematic mode works with the selfie cam, which is a feature that I still appreciate, and it works nicely. Video stabilization is solid, and while it starts to fall apart a bit in low light, that's expected. For something 4 years old, it still gives you a lot to work with. If this is your first iPhone, there's one thing that might catch you off guard. WhatsApp. Moving chats from Android to iOS or the other way around is still surprisingly clunky. There's no built-in way to backup and restore across platforms without running into a few walls. That's where something like MobileTrans 5.0 from Wondershare steps in. You install it on a Windows machine, connect both your phones, Android and iPhone, and the software picks them automatically. Just make sure the direction is right, which phone you are sending from and which one's receiving. Once that's set, the process is straightforward. A few clicks, and it pulls a local backup that transfers your WhatsApp data cleanly, including chats, media, and attachments. It also works with WhatsApp Business, Line, and a few other messaging apps. What's nice with version 5.0 is that it's actually fast. The WhatsApp transfer is about 90% faster than the official method, and still noticeably quicker than most third-party options out there. If you want to keep your conversations and you don't want to lose anything in the switch, this just gets it done. So check out the description of this video to check out MobileTrans V5.0. Now let's talk about the display. Of course, the notch is still here, no way around that. It's the same one that cuts through your content when you're watching something full screen. Apple's made it part of the design language for so long now. It feels intentional, almost like a nudge. Yes, we still haven't changed this, but the screen underneath is good. Super Retina XDR OLED, Full HD, with a peak brightness of 1200 nits. It doesn't match the high refresh panels you get now, and if you're coming from 90 or 120Hz, you do feel the difference. But after a while, it fades into the background. Indoors, the colors are rich, the contrast is tight, and blacks are deep. Even outside, under harsh light, it stays legible. And while the bezels are thicker than newer models, there's something about the symmetry that makes it easier to accept. It still looks clean. The build holds up too. Aluminum frame, glossy back, that weighty, solid hand wheel, none of that has changed. The buttons are still crisp, responsive. Haptics are not as layered as on something like a Pixel, but when they hit, they feel good. There's a tactile sharpness to them, and the mute switch is still here, still satisfying. That little mechanical click, that hasn't gone anywhere. Performance-wise, it's been solid. On iOS 18, I never ran into slowdowns or bugs. Now with iOS 26 beta, things are a bit shaky, for valid reasons. Despite that, I have gamed on it, run heavier apps, edited photos on it. Usually the frame rates during gameplay hang comfortably around 55 to 60 FPS without overheating. No weird app crashes, and for day-to-day tasks, browsing, social media, maps, messages, there's no sense that I'm behind. Sometimes we assume that not upgrading means missing out on the essentials, but I haven't felt that. The basics still work exactly how they should, and that's the part that makes this phone still feel worth keeping in the pocket. Battery life though, it's showing its age. My battery health is sitting at 83%, so on iOS 18, I was getting somewhere around 4 to 5 hours of screen on time with careful use. After the iOS 26 beta, it dipped a bit. Now it's closer to 4. Manageable, but it means rethinking how long I go without charging. With 15 watts charging, it climbs to 80% in about an hour and a half. And because it supports MagSafe, you have still got a whole ecosystem of accessories that work. Now back to the cameras. The front camera is a 12 megapixel sensor that can go up to 4K 60 FPS in videos. I like how consistently natural the results feel. Whether I'm using portrait mode or just a regular selfie, there's this balance in how it handles faces. It doesn't over-sharpen or flatten out textures the way other phones do. There's detail, but it keeps the warmth of skin. The softness around edges. Lighting conditions don't throw it off much either. Indoors, outdoors, with shadows or mixed color temperatures, it stays pretty steady. Stabilization is good too, and that makes it something I'm actually comfortable using, not just something I test and forget. The back camera follows that same idea. It's good, reliable in good light, but definitely shows its age in certain moments. One thing I notice is how the color temperature shifts between shots. It's not always dramatic, but it breaks consistency if you're paying attention. Compared to newer phones, there's a slight quality difference. Less punch, more softness. But on its own, when you're not side by side with the 16 Pro or something, the photos still feel great. Portrait mode on the rear is clean. The subject separation is solid, but because there's no telephoto, you don't get that flattering compression you would find on newer models. What this camera still does well is objects, colors, the kind of stuff you shoot without overthinking. Good light, decent framing, and it holds up. Details are sharp enough, colors pop in a way that's not too processed, and exposure rarely gets away from it. Zooming all the way in isn't its strength. The clarity starts to dissolve pretty quickly, but unless you're pixel peeping, it stays functional. One thing that's still a little annoying is lens glare. Shoot into a direct light, street lamps, bulbs in restaurants, and the flare takes over the frame. Low light video is where the phone starts to struggle. There's a softness that comes in. Not full-on noise, just a kind of hazy lack of bite. It doesn't look too bad, just subdued, almost like the phone's trying to hold back rather than show its limits. And I get it, but still, it's not a strength. Daylight and well-lit scenes are where the video steps up. Shoot around greenery, flowers, busy street corners, and there's a crispness to the footage that holds. Cinematic mode, whether front or back, adds that depth blur without feeling gimmicky. You can record at 4K 60 FPS across all three lenses: front, wide, ultra-wide. Even if you're not creating anything, the videos just look good, vlog level good, if that's something you care about. What stands out more recently is how iOS 26 has reshaped the camera app. After the update, I opened it up and everything felt off. I couldn't find portrait mode, couldn't locate cinematic. It wasn't until I slowed down that I realized they had been moved, now tucked around the main mode selector, just under a different interface layer. Once I adjusted, it actually started to feel more streamlined, less busy, easier to navigate. And it reflects how iOS 26 is evolving overall. Apple's slowly letting users personalize more without blowing open the structure. Home screen theming now offers multiple looks: default, dark, clear, tinted. On the lock screen, there's new clock styles, adjustable sizes, and more widget slots. It's not total freedom like Android, but that seems intentional. You're guided, not restrained. You can't break the aesthetic. That new liquid glass clear theme, the one that feels like glass over water, it's surprisingly well done. You can tell Apple's designers have put effort into it. Even on this older device, It looks so good. Using it day to day, the interface feels fresh, and for a moment, you forget this is a phone from 2021. Yes, it's a beta, and yes, there are glitches, especially on the developers' builds. Crashes, UI hiccups, the occasional app freeze. But even with that, I kept thinking about this, how this is a 4-year-old device and still looks so fresh. Because it has a fresh software. That's not just about features, it's about longevity, value. You bought this phone years ago, but it's still part of the current cycle. And with iOS 26, nearly every part of the interface, it all feels new, and that to me is a win. If your phone keeps evolving without being deliberately slowed down, each update becomes a kind of quiet reward. The speakers on mine have definitely worn in. They are not blown, but they don't have the same clarity they once did. Not bad, not impressive, just serviceable. As far as future updates go, Apple's track record says this thing isn't done yet. 2, maybe even 3 more years of support still feels likely. And that's huge, because if the software keeps arriving, the phone keeps evolving. It doesn't get left behind, and that's the entire point really. So using the iPhone 13 in 2025, it's not just possible, it's practical. As long as your needs are simple and you are not chasing every spec sheet edge, this phone still holds, still delivers. And if you get one at a good price, you're not just saving money, you're giving a piece of tech more time before it turns into e-waste. That counts too. My name is Mubashir Hamid, you're watching Honestic, and I'll see you in the next video.